Hey guys, welcome to the second of the Let's Max videos that have come from the Silver Grove update. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at the newest addition to the throwing knife weapons, and that is the Infested Pox. The throwing knife style weapons, it's a class that's got some pretty good weapons in it. You got the Spearer Prime, Hiku Prime and the Stalker's Own Despair. So how does the Pox stack up when you are faced with some stiff competition? Well, it can be researched in the Clan Dojo in the Biolab, so the build requirements, they're not really known right now. I can't say whether it needs another weapon to be built when using these. So with the way weapons are going recently, it's entirely possible that it requires maybe the Kastanas to build. Although it's literally pure speculation at this point. But what we do know, it does come with 125 pure toxin damage as base damage, meaning it's a pure elemental weapon. Combines fantastically with some of the elemental combos like viral or corrosive. Its supplemental stats, however, kind of interesting. Only a 1% critical chance, 200% critical damage multiplier. It's not really going to be able to take advantage of the insanely strong pistol crit mods. However, with a base status chance of a huge 35%, this thing is going to be able to pump out a ton of status procs with very little investment into the status chance of the weapon, with things like, dual stat mods. Combine this with the fact that it creates a gas cloud when it explodes on contact with anything, floor or enemy. It means that you can effectively cut off areas with these things. Not only that, but apply status procs to everything that passes through it. But it's not all good with the Pox, however. Low ammo count, just 24, means that the ammo mutation is going to be something that's highly useful on this, since it runs out of ammo almost immediately. Although its very low fire rate of just 2 rounds a second does mitigate that slightly, although it feels so ridiculously slow you're probably going to want to slap a bit of fire rate on there to try and make it feel that bit quicker. The flight speed, it's also pretty damn slow, so either you're going to need to adjust for that and get used to it, or you could chuck on some flight speed to try and speed up that flight speed a bit as well. Now in terms of the actual build, it comes with 2 V polarities already, which is really nice. I've added another 4 former, another V and 3 dashes. Now on the weapon, I've actually got Hornet Strike, Barrel Diffusion, Lethal Torrent. There's 3 standard mods that go onto every single secondary build. Then I've got Anemic Agility to be able to push out that damage much quicker. Combining that with the primed ammo mutation due to the insanely low ammo count. A normal ammo mutation mod would work just as well here because of the low amounts of ammo you actually need. But if you have the prime, why wouldn't you use it really? And then we have the elementals. I've got 1 dual stat to bring that status chance up to a massive 90%. And then I've got 1 90% elemental and primed heated charge in there to really push the damage up. In terms of elemental combos, I would go Radiation Toxin, Gas Electric, Corrosive Heat or Virulent Heat. They're all combinations that work fantastically well in this weapon. I would use Radiation Toxin for Grenier, Gas Electric for Corpus, or Radiation Toxin for Corpus, that works too. Corrosive Heat for the Infested, and then Viral works pretty much against everything. If you want the status procs against the Infested, then it would be a good status weapon. Don't forget you will suffer that massive damage penalty against the Infested, so it would be there pretty much purely as the status weapon. Play around with those elemental combos though, find which one you like. You can even drop an elemental for another dual stat elemental mod if you wanted to push the chance to 100%. I don't think it's worth personally losing the elemental damage for more status chance since 90% is pretty damn good to begin with, but the one thing I might change is taking off a 90% elemental for something like terminal velocity, just to help with the slow flight speed, but with a bit of getting used to the weapon, you don't really need it to be honest. So do I like the Pox? Well, honestly, not really, no. Don't get me wrong, the weapon's actually pretty damn good. It does quite a lot of damage, and then when you combine it with the status procs and the AoE cloud when it lands, it can actually be a pretty potent weapon. Use it to block corridors, cut off ways the enemies get funneled into you, weaken them before they even reach the position you're trying to defend. If you think you've seen weapons like this before though, you would be right. When you fire the Mutilus Cernos, the projectile that comes out of it and drops the cloud on the floor, that's the Pox. So one of the criticisms I had of the Mutilus Cernos is actually relevant here, which is the cloud that it drops when it explodes. Not only is it affected by energy colour, so you can easily run into people with the most obnoxious colours in the world, but the cloud is so thick that, like the Mutilus Cernos, enemies inside the cloud or behind the cloud, you can't see them. at all. I know the idea of the weapon is to kill enemies moving through the cloud, or at the very least soften them up before they get to you, but why would you use something that completely blocks your view of them? By the way, even though you can't see through to shoot them, they can still see you just fine. So what you've now done is block your own line of sight, but not theirs. The turret is the best example of how it should be done. It's obvious to someone, even someone like me, where the turret clouds are, but more importantly, you can see the enemies you want to shoot at, which is kind of helpful. I want to like this weapon, I really do. The damage is good, I like status weapons quite a lot, and I like throwing weapons even more, but the cloud on impact from the weapon just drives me mental. If you can live with that, then it's actually a pretty decent weapon. Does quite a bit of damage, spreads a ton of status blocks around. It's actually really good if you can make it work, and it really shines in choke pointy situations where you can force the enemy to come through your cloud. Things like defense or excavation where they're really coming to you. So while I personally don't like them because the cloud's way too thick for me, I do recommend trying them yourself because they definitely aren't bad, and they are a decent addition to the throwing knife style weapons. As always guys, any comments and questions in the comments below, and I shall see you in the next episode.